my disabilities stop us from having children, Ollie? Go.
Oh my gosh, a hard question.
We need to unpack that in this episode.
Well, like the obvious answer is maybe.
Ooh, well, this is the thing. We need to unpack this a lot for you guys.
That maybe is quite a loaded maybe, isn't it? It
is a loaded maybe. And we're on this journey and we wanted to chat to you guys about it because of late we've been doing a lot more family planning since I turned 28.
We have rang people. We have spoken to people.
So we're going to just deep dive in this episode for you guys today. Hold tight. This is a bonus episode, so we're not going to do the dilemmas or the hate comments. We're just going to talk to you about our family planning journey so far. Let's get into it. Let's roll the titles. This is But I'd Never Marry a Blind Woman,
a show where we answer all the questions you are too afraid to ask about dating, marriage, and finding love with a disability.
I'm Lucy Edwards-Cave, presenter, author of my soon-to-be-published book, Blind Not Broken, and blind wife of...
Me, Ollie Edwards-Cave, her sighted husband and the man usually behind the camera.
Each week on this podcast, we...
your fave interabled couple.
We'll debunk the stereotypes of dating with a disability, dive behind the inspiration porn headlines, and unpack your relationship dilemmas.
So when people say,
but I'd never marry a blind woman,
you can answer,
well, I would.
But I'd never marry a blind woman. But I'd never marry a blind woman. Podcast, baby.
So let's start from the very beginning, shall we?
from the beginning, once upon a time.
From the very start of my life. No. So my mom never really knew about incontinentia pigmenti until I was born.
So what is incontinentia pigmenti?
Well, it's something that you know how to spell.
Yes.
But it's also my really rare genetic disorder that runs down the female line of my genes. So on the X, it's a dominant gene.
X chromosome.
On the X chromosome. Very correct. Thank you, darling. And it's a dominant gene. So it means that I could pass it on to mine and Oliver's children to be. So it's something that we both have to think about now.
Yep.
And it's something that my mom didn't know too much about when she was family planning for herself. So
Well, to be fair to your mum, the general consensus around IP as a
whole thing.
It's only been it's only about 100 years old or so.
The disease was first discovered by a Swiss, I think, ophthalmologist.
Dermatologist.
Was it? Oh, dermatologist named
Bruno Bloch.
Bruno Bloch, Mr. Bloch.
In 1926. So it's not even 100 years old.
That's insane.
And then it was refined to sort of get the general knowledge of what we have about it, apart from the genetic side, by Marion Sulzberger.
So then it became Bloch-Sulzberger syndrome for a time.
Yes.
That
But
was its
primarily
first
known
kind of
by
name.
Incontinentia pigmenti now.
Yes, now it is. But I think that's only really since 1997.
I wouldn't know, to be fair. Wikipedia does not have that information.
Okay, darling. Well, I think in the UK, that date rings a bell to me. That year rings a bell. And for me, it really turned up in my life and also my mom's life when I was 4 years old. And on the backs of my legs, they were really quite bumpy. And they were worried about what skin condition that I had. And I got tested at my local GP surgery. And there was a dermatologist there. And he said, oh, I think she's got incontinentia pigmenti. And then I went for a routine eye check at age 8. And it was founded that my eyes were poorly. So I think just going back to family planning, I know that my mom wouldn't have necessarily even known because she's got incontinentia pigmenti.
But
she's got an affected X, but it hasn't affected her life.
She doesn't have any eye problems, but she's got, I believe, is it less teeth?
She's got less teeth, but in every other way, if you were someone that had a genetic disorder, but in every which way, you couldn't possibly see that there was any effect on your everyday life, why would you think it was a threat to your children? You just wouldn't if there was no kind of research around it. And I know that at the turn of the 90s, that was when a lot more research was being done on it and the condition. You know, we knew hardly anything about its prevalence until kind of I came of age, really. and had the words to describe like how my eyesight was affecting me. So I think me and my mom have discussed this at length and how it still kind of affects us in our day-to-day lives, whether we think the tingling in our fingers is incontinence pigmenti or
Yeah,
you
it
know,
can cause neurological
it can.
disorders.
And sometimes we often think about that and like we're both like, should we go and get a heart scan? Because my late grandma, she had heart problems and she also had incontinence pigmenti. So it can affect a lot of things, but in me, for me and Ollie, like thinking about our family planning, it obviously affects my eyesight quite a lot.
It does.
So I'm totally blind from it, which is really, really rare.
I don't know if like you can pass on the severity of it. I don't know if it's one of these things where because you have gone blind, whether like if we had a kid with it, that child would have a more severe version, or if they could just end up with like skin pigments and less teeth.
It's something that we don't know, but what we do know is that we have a 50-50 chance of having a boy that is either affected by incontinence pigmenti, and if you are a boy with IP, you are severely affected. It's either miscarriage, it is brain damage, it is really quite serious. Like if I was a boy, I most likely wouldn't be here.
Yeah, like Wikipedia in front of me says most males with the disease do not survive to childbirth.
Yes. So, you know, that's what we're looking at when me and Ollie are thinking, oh, right, so we've got a 50% chance of not being able to have a boy. Wow. You know, do I want to put my body through that? You know, it's a very personal decision, but one that I do like to discuss with Ollie.
Yeah, there is the chance that we could end up, like, if we went the natural route, that we could end up with a healthy boy.
I.e., just like
if we got your good X plus my Y, then we can end up with a healthy boy. If we got your good X and my good X, well, my X, then we'd end up with a girl. But then there's the chance that we could end up with a miscarriage with a boy or a girl who is like you.
So when we say good and bad, it's all relative, right?
It is. Like we're just meaning it's what you've used to describe it before.
Exactly. And it's not we're not meaning to cause offense here, and we do know that this podcast is very personal. Like this is very personal information that we're sharing in good faith and confidence. So we do say, like, if anyone has like a different perspective, we obviously welcome that, but we also, you know, are very clear on our path, and we're very like happy with our decisions as of late. And I think, you know, we've had years, like we've been together 11 years to think about this, and you know, family planning is your own personal decision. So it really is kind of what we are looking at as just two individual people that kind of see this kind of decision in our own way. So this conversation does make me feel quite vulnerable and quite emotional and quite exposed to people's opinions on the internet, and it's something that is possibly quite controversial, but it's also very personal. As
we've seen in some of our hate comments, some people are a bit into eugenics and they don't believe that you should exist.
Well, no. And also, when we talk about good and bad exes, you know, I, in that scenario, am the bad ex. So it's thinking about this in a very, I don't know, I try not to think too much about it because I know I am removing a part of me in what we're about to discuss. But I am okay with that in order to not go through a miscarriage or abortion or all of these different things that we're possibly going to get into.
It's also the potential trauma that the child might face of potentially going blind. Yeah.
I've always said that if I was blind from birth, I wouldn't have known any different. And maybe that is coming from a place where I lost my eyesight later on in life. So I'm quite traumatized by that kind of moment. But obviously I've got a gorgeous, fulfilling life now and I wouldn't want it any other way. But I have had a lot of rehabilitation and a lot of strength that I've had to find within myself that I don't want my child to have to go through if I know something about it. And I do feel a sense of responsibility, you know, to mine and Ollie's future children. And if I knew that they would be completely healthy and, you know, the only thing that would be kind of be a disability to them is their eyesight, I'd be like, yeah, let's have a child, because I don't see that as limiting in any way I can help them, like anything I can help them with. And at the end of the day, if we still do have a disabled child, their life would be amazing. I would help them in every single way. I just don't want to go into a decision that is conscious and that I could have trauma to my own body or theirs in a way that I'm knowingly able to control in today's society with the medical advancements that we have. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I guess in some ways, like, it's the ignorance is bliss type thing. Now that we have the knowledge that it is possible to control the outcome of whether the child gets IP or not,
We would rather
Like,
not.
the cat is out the bag.
Yes.
Like, we have to then make a decision.
Whether
like-
we like it or not, we have to be responsible here. And maybe a responsible decision for you, if you have IP or another genetic disorder, is to have a child naturally. And we are not judging you in any shape or form. This is just our decision. And we're sharing it with you in good faith. And we hope that you can take that for what it is. So at the moment, we're looking into different things, aren't we, Ollie? Do you want to just go into that? Because we're just researching it for the first time.
So there's two ways about this. We've got the primary method that we're probably going to take, which is via IVF, in vitro fertilization, where we have to basically test tube babies, as they used to be called.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And then we've got the other method, which is,
By the way, we don't want a test tube baby.
well, they're just called test tube babies.
No,
Like,
but
as
they're
in,
not-
like the first 5 days of, they're fertilized in a test tube, and then they are transferred into your womb after 5 days.
Fine.
And then that's how it works.
Oh, okay. I knew that, but I didn't know they were called test tube babies.
That's like it's like the old school name for it.
Oh, okay.
And then you've got the way that we could do it, which is the natural way. And then you can get this test where they prick your belly and then you can find out. And then you'd
Whether I
potentially
have the gene or
yeah,
not.
well, the child has the gene or not. And then you either had to weigh up abortion versus will it miscarry, all of this sort of stuff. And like it's a whole, but you had to wait like 12 weeks or so for that
Yes.
to be the case. So the most likely solution that we're probably going to go for is IVF with what's called PGTM, which stands for pre-implantation genetic testing for monogenic disorders, which
How catchy.
well, monogenic disorders means just a genetic condition that is caused by one single gene, which is
Me.
IP. Your particular gene that
That's
IP
me.
affects
That's
is
me.
called the Nemo gene,
Yeah.
and that's on the X chromosome, which it's all a bit sciencey.
Yes.
But like that, basically what they do is we will go for IVF. Lucy will get her eggs, and then she'll get the eggs out of her via a bunch of injections and stuff.
She will get her eggs.
Yeah.
Will I?
The
I
eggs,
think they will just be in me.
they will have your eggs.
Yes.
They will fertilize them first,
Yes.
and then
With yourself.
with myself,
And then
they
will
will
be
let
an
it.
embryo.
They will let it grow
Yep.
for 4 days, and then they will check the. From there, they'll do a genetic test
Yeah.
to make sure that the embryo is without the X gene. And then from there, they will do a shuffle of all the healthy ones, so they don't know which one is a
Boy or a girl?
boy or a girl. And then they will plop that egg, well, that embryo, back into your womb,
Into moi.
and then pregnancy resumes as normal.
Yeah, then we go on our way. So this is something that we've thought about for a while. Again, we're at the very early stages of it. And how are you feeling, Ollie?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. It's quite exciting. Like
It's
sort of-
so exciting.
like a lot of this stuff we've only just learned about. Like we've sort of known about. So you went for an appointment
I did.
years and years and years and years and years ago.
Yeah, I was 16 and I went with my mom, and they were only talking about me getting pregnant kind of in the natural way, quote unquote. And then them pricking my belly.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that we've kind of advanced in a way that we can test. But it is also kind of it will never stop being like a thing within my mind that I know that like this gene is being eradicated.
Yeah,
That's
part of you.
weird to me. That is weird.
Well,
but
in-
I am very happy in my decision. You
I
know?
guess in some ways it's similar to the trolley problem. You know, the famous problem where you've got you've got a trolley which has a split in the tracks, like as it's a trolley being like a tram car or something. There's a split in the tracks and you've got a lever and there's like 5 people tied up on one side and there's one tied up on the other, and then you will kill the 5 people unless you pull the lever. And then
to kill one.
to kill one. Like that's the trolley problem.
Oh,
Which
right. So
But-
you either pull. So the decision really is to just let it go on its course. It would have gone that way anyway and kill the 5 people.
Exactly.
Or pull the lever just to kill the 1 person and save the
Exactly.
5.
But like, there's the trouble with it is when you pull that lever, you've then made an active decision. You've made the decision to remove that person from existence.
Yes.
Whereas if you let it go on as it goes, then
That would have
that's-
happened anyway.
Yeah, that's the way that nature would have gone if you weren't in the picture. Which,
so
like, I
hard.
guess is what sort of happens with ourselves normally. Like when me and you have a baby, not all of our genes will be passed on.
Yes.
There will be like your ginger hair may not be passed on, or I don't know, my nose shape might not be passed on.
Well,
and
my
that's-
sister doesn't have IP.
yeah,
So-
and that's the like you wouldn't say that Alice had IP eradicated from her,
No.
but because we are making the decision,
Yes.
then that's where it gets complicated
Yeah,
in
it's
our
true.
minds.
But I think if I also left it as well, I don't know.
Well, 5 people die. That's
this is the
that's
thing. Like,
the trick.
if I left it as well, and then someone, we had a boy and I had a miscarriage, like that is so mentally traumatic for me. I just don't think I can go through it knowingly. You know, if it happens to me, then I will deal with it. But knowingly,
Yeah.
saying to myself that 50% of the pregnancies that are boys,
Yeah, it's like rolling a dice. Well, flipping a coin.
yeah,
And
I just
like-
can't do it to myself. I just can't. Makes me quite emotional, you know, knowingly doing that and knowingly thinking that they would be severely disabled,
Yeah, it's a real risk.
you know, and it's not like they would just be blind, like, you know, so
There's a whole load of symptoms that you have not got, which are quite severe. Like, for example, there's epilepsy
Yes.
and like severe neurological
and
conditions
again,
which stop
if you
you like
have
moving
those,
parts of your body.
if you have those disabilities, and I had a baby and unknowingly I had a gorgeous baby with all of those disabilities, I would be so thankful. I would be so happy and amazed, and I know that they would have a fulfilling life because I would be their mom and I would be there supporting them. But knowingly making that decision, knowingly having this gene and doing it, I just don't think I can make that decision. And that's why we're having IVF.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's going to be a journey.
It is. And there's going to be questions along the way, sort of like once we do have said baby.
Yeah.
Like a lot of, if we look on, for example, your video about the one where you're in Japan and you're feeling all those embryos,
Yes.
there are a lot of people who sort of mentioned about being a blind mum
Yes.
and like sort of how complicated that's going to be. And that will be challenges that we face in the future about
As
things
well.
that aren't accessible,
Well, loads,
where people
I
are
bet
questioning
you.
your competence.
Yeah, of course. And I bet you there's so many baby products and breast pumps and when I'm breastfeeding and I don't know, sterilizers that just aren't accessible, that we're going to have to label and mark. And it's going to be a challenge for me as a disabled mother.
Yeah, and then you're probably going to have some fights with like nursery staff. Or,
Oh gosh, yeah. Or people that just don't. I mean, I am so thankful that my best friend is a midwife. I would be so scared to advocate for myself in a position where people just don't believe in my competency fundamentally as a blind mom, you know? Unfortunately, we live in a sighted world that isn't made for me. I say that all the time, but it is so true. Even in 2024, in 2024 or 5, I'm going to have a baby.
Yeah.
And,
Well, there's always,
you know,
like, to put it in perspective though, there is the very real chance, like, as we always sort of say, and we've said this before in the podcast, that the disabled community is the only one that you can really join at any time.
yes,
Like, so it could
with a minority group that anyone can join.
exactly. So it could very well be that someone who is supposedly, in inverted commas, healthy, like, gets into a car accident
Yes.
or gets, I don't know, mugged by a peaky blinder. Not that that would happen nowadays, but like,
It's because you're a brummie. You
Yeah.
wanted to drop
well,
in that.
I'm thinking it's very specifically of things where people slash out your eyes.
Ooh. gosh, sorry, the
That's-
trigger warning.
But like it, like you, there's a theory that you could become blind or disabled in any other way, like, and you could already have a kid. Like it happens all the time.
Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen in life. We can only have the knowledge we have now. We can only make the best decision that we can, that we feel is good at the time. And the rest, life happens.
Indeed.
Life just goes on. And something could happen. Like anything could happen. And we're
Exactly.
okay with that. We're gonna love our child, disabled or not. Like we will adore them. We're so excited.
Indeed. And there's ways to get excited as well.
Yeah.
Like there's now 3D printing
There
of
is.
baby scans. And there's
Wally's so excited about me
I am.
having that.
and then we can like do a little bit of photogrammetry on the baby or whatever when they're born as well. And
Yeah.
which is where you take photos and turn it into a 3D model,
Yeah.
which we could then 3D
We're so
print.
excited about all
There's
these
many
videos
ways-
as well to show you guys.
And also
having
stamping
the
their
journey.
hands into clay.
Yeah, like we've done with Miss Mo's paw. We need to do Miss Box's.
We do. So there's many ways we can enjoy these memories as we
Many.
come along.
We hope that you listen to this podcast with non-judgmental ears. And yeah, we've been very vulnerable today, and we're willing to share a lot more about our journey and our process. We're probably going to do some long form videos on it actually when like it's nearer the time and we're ready to share more. But we just wanted to ultimately answer the question that yes, I am going to be an amazing mother, an amazing blind mother, a competent blind mother, and also being a blind mother is going to also just be one part of me. Like
One of
having
your many
ginger hair
pillars.
is one part of me. And being blind is one part of me, and being a wife is one part of me. It's one of my many pillars, as you say. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe on YouTube, and wherever you're listening to this podcast, give us a rate.
And don't forget to send your dilemmas to HELP, that's help, at lucyedwards.com.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week for a new one.
See you next week, guys.
Bye.